Welcome to the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for Wednesday, January 31st. This is Gina McGuire. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen precipitation, again mainly concentrated up over central Idaho, and this precipitation has been near to just above normal for the time of year. Elsewhere across the basin, drier conditions have occurred. Any precip we have seen has been well below normal for the time of year, with no precipitation in the last 2 weeks over southern Nevada and parts of the Arizona Strip. If we look at the snowfall over the last 72 hours, we have seen some new snowfall over the last few days, mainly across central Idaho and into Wyoming, with again drier conditions further south. And we still do have the deepest snowpack up north, and the snowpack is still below normal over the Uintas, into the northern Wasatch and central Utah mountains, and into the central Sierra. The satellite loop from this morning shows generally westerly flow across the Great Basin, which has suppressed the ridge that's been in place over the last few days. Still, warm temperatures will be in place today, and we will have some clouds and occasional showers up north. Otherwise, dry conditions will continue further south. Now looking at the weather pattern for later today, again that west to northwest flow will continue to bring clouds and occasional showers to Idaho and Wyoming today, with only some cloud cover over northern Nevada and northern Utah, with dry and warm conditions further south. Dispersion today will be quite poor across most areas of Nevada, the Arizona Strip, and the lower elevations of Utah, and will be a little bit better closer to that system and increased flow over Idaho and Wyoming. Looking at the transport winds for today, we still have some breezy winds across the higher terrain of Wyoming down into the central Utah mountains, again keeping that dispersion higher, and also some moderate winds over parts of the Snake River Plain across Idaho, with much weaker winds over western and southern Nevada. Mixing heights will remain low in the south and west and higher over areas at the higher terrain of Utah and up north, where again those transport winds are a little breezier. On Thursday, a similar pattern is in effect, therefore we'll continue with clouds and occasional showers over northern areas and mainly cloud cover over the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin, but still rather warm temperatures over the southern half of the area. Poor dispersion is expected in most areas on Thursday. Transport winds will have decreased by Thursday, again allowing for poor dispersion. We will have some moderate winds over parts of central Nevada and generally Wyoming, but most wind gusts will remain below 25 or 30 miles per hour. Mixing heights will be moderate to poor across the region. On Friday, the ridge of high pressure begins to build further north off the west coast, pushing again warmer and drier air into western and southern areas of the basin, and still some cloud cover, especially over Idaho and the eastern half of Utah, with possibly a few remaining showers in the far north and east. Dispersion will remain poor across most of the Great Basin. Looking at the transport winds, again as that ridge starts to build off the west coast, it will decrease wind flow across much of the basin. Still a few areas of breezy winds over western Wyoming and parts of southern Idaho, but weaker than what we will certainly see today. Mixing heights very low over the western half of the area and in the moderate range over parts of the Arizona Strip and the eastern half of Utah. Looking at the forecast clearing index for Utah over the next few days, we will see deteriorating conditions. Today, the best clearing indices will be in the higher terrain, where those transport winds will be highest, and remain low over the lower elevations. However, as we move through Thursday and Friday, even the high elevations will see the clearing indices come down as those winds really start to decrease. The overall forecast amount of precipitation for the next few days shows most of the precipitation again in the higher terrain of Idaho and Wyoming, with some lighter showers as we move through the next few days over northern Utah and possibly even far northeast Nevada, with dry conditions over the rest of the basin. As we move into this weekend, the ridge still dominates over most of the Great Basin, with warm and dry conditions and general northwesterly flow. Dispersion will increase as those northwesterly winds become a little bit more breezy over the eastern half of the area. We will see a little bit better dispersion over southern Nevada, the Arizona Strip, and parts of Utah. As we move into Sunday, very similar, warm and dry conditions over the western areas of the Great Basin with poor dispersion. And then we have another system bringing some cloud cover and a return of some light shower activity to the northern and eastern portion of the area, again, mainly Idaho, Wyoming, and northern Utah. We will see better dispersion on Sunday over the southern and eastern half of the area, and again, still poor dispersion over western Idaho into western and northern Nevada. Similar pattern on Monday, however, we might see the showers decrease over central Idaho mountains and push more into eastern Idaho and Wyoming, but still warm and dry conditions over the rest of the Great Basin with that strong ridge off the west coast. Dispersion will remain good in many areas due to that northwest flow. On Tuesday, very little change in the pattern, with good dispersion over southern eastern areas and still poor dispersion in the west. The forecast amount of precipitation from Saturday morning through Monday morning again shows any precipitation focused across Idaho, Wyoming, and northern Utah, with very dry conditions elsewhere. The 8 to 14 day outlook, which takes us into late in the first week of February into the second week of February, and we're looking at warm and dry conditions really continuing to dominate the Great Basin and much of the West as we move through the next couple of weeks. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, let us know or check back on Friday for the latest updates.